Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, awesome. Okay, let me walk you through, how from our vantage point, we see emerging trends in the media and entertainment landscape. It's a big privilege to obviously be here at the 25th year of FICCI and really talk about how obviously, the country has grown and equally our audiences have grown and equally what they see has, changed. If you look at some of the four things that I would really talk about. First thing is, we are obviously amidst, I would say, what, Gen Z is consuming today. The oldest Gen Z, by the way, guys, he's already 28 years old. We have Gen Alpha on their heels. Let's say the oldest Gen Alpha is already 15 to 16 years old, right? So Gen Z is not someone who is futuristic. Many of them are already part of the earning community, and, obviously what they consume today will dictate how I guess this industry flourishes. The second thing is about the surging short-form video adoption. The third one is really about emergence of micro dramas. And last one, of course, how can any conference, not have AI in it? And, what role does AI play really in the M&E landscape? So today, if you look at, what do Gen Z do today? I think the way they process content, the way they discover things has completely changed. Today, if you look at, and this is a stat, of course, which is true for India, and I'm sure it's true for many other parts of the world as well. I mean, I wouldn't be wrong if I said that they live on Reels. It's the singular, largest medium on which they spend time on a daily basis. More than 65% of new brands, new ads, new content, everything is discovered for them on Meta, largely on Instagram and to some extent on Facebook as well, because Reels is also on Facebook. And about 43% of consumption in India on Reels is Gen Z already today. So today, I think the second thing is it's not only about, where they consume content, it's also about how they consume content. Today, young generations are processing content 3x faster than previous generations, right? And this is what we see on our platforms. And when I say content, it's not just, ad content. It could even be about, let's say a video from a creator on a reel, about travel, about, let's say, recipe, etc. Whatever it is, I think literally they take just a few seconds to decide, should I engage with this or should I not engage with this? And, this is just not us, but as you can see today, the younger the audiences are becoming, the processing time has actually diminished, from 4.2 seconds to 1.4 seconds. And this is not, actually an external study done using we call left and eye tracking, etc. So clearly, I think they need less attention, but they need more repetition. What do you mean by more repetition? The reason is frequency plays a big role. I'll give you a classic example. Let's say when I talk to my daughter who's 19, when she sees the same brand, come to her on Instagram for the 4th time, that's when she clicks. Because she thinks this is more for me. It actually, because obviously all the, teenagers understand, I'd say the era of personalized advertising. So clearly they understand that if this brand is coming again and again to me, it means that, I am potentially their audience set. And frequency plays a much bigger role, than second age. I know this is very counterintuitive to what you heard in the morning, but that's what's happening at least with younger generations. So clearly one is they want to see this more often. They need not take action the first time, but do they take action later? 100% they do. So today, the other thing which is happening is it's not only about the content, it's not about processing time, it's also the fact that we truly live in a multimedia world. So today, if you look at it, I'm saying you are spending time today, let's say on digital, on several platforms. Then you obviously may, drive past and you might see some hoardings. You might obviously browse, the internet for news and stuff. So you are actually, the user actually is seeing content everywhere. So the idea is little pieces of content or little pieces of information actually staggered over several platforms clearly form an impression. So in some sense, it's a non-linear style, which they're used to. And equally micro moments, as I said, basis when you're free or, who talks to you when. So for example, if you're, let's say you're browsing between, let's say 7 and 10, for all you should get a recipe or something to cook, it might be very timely. So how do you really find a way to really weave these micro moments together, as content so that you get more and more engagement? So the other one is today, if you look at where short-form video in the country is, this was a study done by Ipsos recently in April. 97% of Indians today watch short-form video daily. compared to 83% who watch television daily. The number of users on television is actually declining month on month. And we know this. It's no longer true that it's only an urban phenomenon of people in this room in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore. Today, a lot of the rural households have a second phone. Effectively, there are 3 devices in the house. There's a television and 2 phones. So you actually see a lot of individual consumption patterns happening in small town India and rural India as well. So clearly you can see as, linear TV's time spent declines, clearly that's where short form is really taking off. And today, if you look at also, where content is and in terms of how it's being consumed, so social media obviously accounts for bulk of where people discover most new content about, and it's the single largest, I would say, content platform available today, above television and OTT apps, or equally newspaper, online news, and radio. Clearly, as this country, of course, grows in affluence, all these channels also will grow. But I think social media obviously has, I would say, has penetrated far deeper, and it's no longer restricted really to, large urban cities or agglomerations. So today, if you look at some of the stats now very specifically to Reels, which is obviously India's #1 short-form video platform, more than 4.5 billion Reels are reshared globally every day, and this number used to be 2 billion a year ago and 1 billion 2 years ago. So, it's obviously doubling, almost every year. And so, therefore, people not only consume content, they also want to make sure they share it with their, friends, family, or followers. More than 50% of the time that is spent on Instagram is on Reels. India, of course, as you heard Sandhya speak earlier, leads the, globe in terms of both content creation on Reels, content consumption on Reels, and creators putting videos as well on Reels. So if you look at, like what I just alluded to earlier, it's no longer, metro city phenomenon, etc. So you can see some of the numbers, they're pretty staggering. There's more than 70% growth in terms of consumption in less than 10 lakh plus towns, more than 40% growth in NCCS BC, and more than 30% in a large base already on Gen Z. So Gen Z, whether they're urban or rural today, is 100% consuming Reels. And equally, I mean, this coincides clearly with, I guess, how people see linear TV at least. So one of the things we have worked very hard, especially with the media and entertainment industry, is to now figure out how you can actually use Reels to amplify, let's say, new content, new films, etc. So there are multiple, opportunities here. So right from a trailer drop, we've seen that, for example, using a vertical format, many films, have actually leveraged this to even get to a reach of 300 or 400 million people in the first couple of days. Build awareness, through creators and messaging, etc. And of course, AR experiences as well. And obviously, it's not just about building awareness, because I think we have an end-to-end solution. They're also able to engage, mediums like WhatsApp to actually ticket these, and send them reminders as well, through partnerships with some of the large, ticketing platforms. And actually then even measure, reviews, reactions, and content. So you actually have an end-to-end system which, many movies and many studios have already leveraged. I think it started with Fighter, year and a half ago. And I think many movies across, not just Bollywood, but also, let's say, South Indian productions, etc., have started leveraging this. And equally, as I mentioned, some of this also, you can actually get what the views are and keep measuring them, as you move forward. The other big trend, moving on from Reels, the second big trend is emergence of micro dramas. And now this is definitely newer to India, not so new to India, but newer to India, because obviously it originated in China first. What are micro dramas? These are typically 1 to 5 minute episode long, with entire shows which run into 50 to 100 episodes. And we see a lot of micro dramas emerging on Reels. A lot of Indian startups have actually started getting rights for Korean and Chinese shows, etc., and Japanese shows, and dubbing them in vernacular languages here. And clearly is meant for the mobile-first world. This is actually now completely taking over how content was consumed earlier. Think of the serials that we had on television, which were 25 to 30 minutes long. This is what's really like, let's say, a trend for the future. This started in China, as I mentioned, and you can see the staggering revenues, right? So in RMB, they've grown almost, close to 15 times between just, 4 million RMB to about 48, and, it's projected to get to more than 100. So clearly, that's what's happening in the Chinese market. And more importantly, India is expected to be a $10 billion short-form drama market by 2030. And a lot of the audiences are coming in from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So whether you look at, see the growth in this chart itself, you're clearly seeing within 6 months, how short-form drama or micro dramas have really taken over, even large players here in terms of monthly watch hours, on platforms like ours. So clearly, if you look at it, there are more than 50 million downloads in the last 12 months. More than 50% of the revenue is coming from repeat users. And you have a host of homegrown players, right from Pocket and Cuckoo, or Elo, Pratilipi, etc., or equally even Amazon's MX Player and ZFi now slowly getting into the space. So clearly, we see this as a big trend, which is how, I guess, content will get consumed. Because, if you just marry this back to all the stats I showed you earlier, you're dealing with a generation whose processing time is very quick, who doesn't have patience, I would say, for long-form content in some sense. And therefore, clearly this, really is, ripe for the taking in terms of their appetite and, what they consume. The other thing which is also changing, in terms of content itself is AI. So today, as you know, Meta AI is available, as a button on everyone's Instagram and WhatsApp. India is actually one of the largest markets where this is used on a daily basis. And people actually are not just asking questions about weather and temperature. You saw, in fact, again in the deck, for those of you in the morning, it even generated a quote, about really, and, with a visual, in terms of what a caption, what it can do. So clearly, we are seeing a lot more content, and this space will only get richer with lots more video and imaginary content coming to life. So we see a lot of AI creators, AI, content, which would potentially emerge in this space as well. And clearly, if you look at it, I'm saying, it started with text. It's already in video. We see a lot of course, advertisers using it already. So globally, over 4 million advertisers used, completely generative AI creatives last quarter. And they actually got a higher ROI than human-created creatives. And these were both text and video. They generated close to 15 million pieces of ad content. And so that's a very large sample when you look at it, and they got more than double-digit better returns than human-created creatives. So clearly, I think this space will emerge with more and more technology, and with the next set of devices, etc., coming in terms of glasses and stuff, this will only get more and more immersive. So if you look at where we are on AI, I think, as I mentioned, one is, of course, AI in terms of generating ads, etc. AI is also used in terms of serving ads, like I mentioned, in terms of the right audiences, the right assets going to the right people. And we've seen whether it's engagement time or return on advertising, each of this has improved with the advent of AI. And Meta is obviously committed. We've invested over $64 billion over the last, in just last year, and more than hundreds of billions of dollars over the last 4 years, clearly in building up the AI engine. And today we have more than 1 billion people actually using Meta AI, and our vision, outside of superintelligence is to really, one is to give superintelligence to everybody, but more importantly in the short run, to really make sure Meta AI is the world's most used personal assistant for every citizen on this planet. The other thing I think, we believe that, is very key to how content evolves in the media landscape is creators. India, as I mentioned, is home to the largest ecosystem of creators. And we have a host of tools in terms of really making sure creators are able to put out their content there. So, right from, for example, just making sure they're linked to the right advertisers, for example, on Instagram Creator Marketplace, tools to boost content, in terms of ads, make sure that they're able to see the key trends, etc., create personalized recommendations. And more importantly, we recently launched an app called Edits, which is able to, literally edit videos, give them lots of options to really go live as quickly on Reels. With, the advent of AI, for example, there are more apps as well, for the creators. So whether it's Vibes, whether it's, research, creativity, writing, etc. So there are a lot more capabilities, that will get unleashed for creators and equally for people who are interested in really exploring early onset of AI. So with this, I think, these are some of the trends that we clearly see, so whether it's the large, audience of Gen Z that we have in this country and what they're consuming in terms of attention span and content. The second one is the overall short-form video taking over literally long-form content and linear TV. The third one is really about AI, and what it can do. And last but not least is, of course, the whole micro-drama phenomenon. So with all of this, I think let's build the future of connection together. Before I go, I want you all to see a glimpse of what the future looks like, which was a recent launch of Ray-Ban Meta glasses with a display, which in some sense replaces the phone. So can I have that video, please? Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this enthralling session. Powered Media Revolution. This session dives into how AI is reshaping creativity, production, and viewer engagement across platforms. Our moderator for this session is Ms. Abhiradhar, Entertainment Editor at NDTV. Joining her on the panel are Driving Director at Meta India, who brings insights on personalized content experiences and monetization. Mr. Bharat Ram, Chief Product Officer at JioStar, who will share